all of you wonderful people here on YouTube. My name is Rio and I welcome you to my artsy corner. Now then, the video I'll be making today is a really interesting one. It's the very first tag video here on my channel. It is called Colorists Firsts Tag. It was created about a year or a couple of years ago by JoJo's Coloring Nook. And I found out about this tag from Disney Max Coloring. I'm going to link both of the channels in the description below. And aside from the 3 channels Meg has tagged on her own video, she also tagged everyone else that hasn't done this tag before. And well, as you know, I haven't been around on coloring YouTube back in the day when the tag was created. So of course I consider myself tagged as well. Besides, it really looked like something really fun to do. I would like to try it out, and I encourage you all to go back to your roots, back to the days when all of you took your first baby steps into adult coloring, and do this tag as well. At the end of this video I'll be tagging 3 channels as well, so stay tuned to find out who I'm going to choose. And without further ado, let's get started, shall we? First of the 10 questions in the set tag is: what is your first coloring book you got when you started coloring? Well, I only got into adult coloring about a year ago. It was somewhere around October or the end of September even. So if we're talking about the very first coloring books I bought back then, when I took interest in adult coloring, like I mentioned in my introduction video, those were these 2 issues of Coloring Heaven magazines, the Fantasy Figure Special and Zodiac Special. Both are topics that really interest me, and well, these magazines look really stunning and I wanted to have them in my collection. So I took the plunge and ordered the both. Wow, amazing art. Really, it's sort of grayscale-ish in a way. And this one I want to do. I love it. And of course, the Zodiac Special. That's a compilation of 4 different artists, I think. Yeah. So these were the books I got back in the day, about a year ago. These books started my current coloring book collection. But those aren't the very first coloring books I ever got. My very first coloring book I ever came into possession of is this one. A tiny, thin coloring book. It's called the Eastern Patterns, I think, if you translate it from Lithuanian. I think it's Shutterstock. Well, I don't think, I'm sure of it, because they do not list artists anywhere in the book. It's published by Obolys. It's one of the major publishing companies here in Lithuania, the country I come from. But yeah, it's definitely Shutterstock. Well, basically it's ye old Zendoodly adult coloring book with paisleys, mandalas, different ornaments and patterns. Quite thick line art. I actually like it. I want to start working on it. Fun fact about this book, I got it for Christmas about 10 years ago, I believe. Back when I was into drawing. So people thought that, well, adult coloring might also be something I'd be interested in. However, when I got it, I simply displaced it somewhere and completely forgot I even owned it up until last year. But for the life of me, no matter how much I looked, I couldn't find it anywhere. For a moment there, I thought I simply tossed it away. You know, the time passing, I really forgot I even owned this book. However, when I did some spring cleaning this year, somewhere around April or May, I found it laying somewhere in the drawers amongst piles of other different crap I wanted to get rid of. And yeah, now I do appreciate it. Really, it's ancient in compared to all the other books I have in my possession. So in a way, you could say it's my priceless possession. Now I really treasure this book. So this is my very, very, very first coloring book I've ever gotten. So then, question number 2. What was your first coloring supply? Ooh, now how should I put it? I am a coloring pencil person. That's how it's always been. I mean, back at school, I mostly used felt tip pens for drawing and coloring for that matter. We used pencils and crayons and watercolors at school, but the pencils that I had back then, like I said, were of really poor quality. Well, you know, your basic kids pencils for like $2 or $3 you can still get anywhere in grocery store. They were poorly pigmented, very, very hard, very difficult to blend. And when I got into drawing about 15 years ago, I only had this weird collection of 15 or 16 random coloring pencils, well, basically leftovers from anything I used back in school. I do not really have them anymore, but I still have some of the pencils I used to use when I was heavily into drawing. When I got fed up with those pesky poor quality pencils, I figured, well, yeah, I should get something a bit more appropriate to color with. Something that would be at least more pigmented, I guess. So one of my first coloring pencils I ever got were these old Faber-Castell pencils. I think that's their student line, I believe. It was a set of 12 that I got for my birthday. There's one more. I don't have any more colors, I believe. No, I don't. These were quite nice. I liked them. Still have a few colors left over. And then again, I also used these. Those were their watercolor pencils, I believe. Yeah, you have the brush symbol on the barrel. Yeah, the yellow one, definitely. Of course, back then I had no idea what watercolor pencil is. Also these triangular ones, also by Faber-Castell. I have the rest of them. My mom has them now. She tried to color along with me as well. I think I'm gonna borrow the rest from her one day and try to finish a page with these. I used to like them a lot back in the day. I also have some random metallic pencils that I found on grocery stores as well. These are actually really good, especially this one, this purple color. Here you can see it. It's by Lyra. I also have Lyra's neons. Well used and loved. Yeah, it was a weird colorist back then. So yeah, in a way you could say I possibly owned every single kid's coloring pencil set I could find in stores in search of perfect pencil. Yeah, some multicolored pencils as well, barely ever used them. Gonna try to do it now. I actually know how. Oh, there's one more of these weird reddish, yellowish, black colors. Yeah, so it's a huge, messy pile of different random coloring pencils. I had a lot more. I kept them all in. A huge plastic flower pots. I did not have any pencil cases back then to put them in, and it was much more comfortable to find the colors I need. Had them grouped by color, so you know, if I need, per se, pink, I pull the pile out, swatch the colors that I need on a piece of scrap paper, and that's how I used to draw / color. So yeah, those are some of my very first coloring supplies that survived up until this day and are definitely worth to be used again. I mean, those are good pencils, especially the Faber-Castell ones. Oh, I even have an old Inktense pencil, I believe. Yeah, that's their old line, I think, because it's hexagonal, not round. Wow, what do you know? Question number 3. What was your first non-budget color pencil? Let me tell you, when you eventually get a chance to try out something better than you are typically used to, you get spoiled pretty quick. So of course, with the time passing, I got fed up with kids' pencils, and I figured, well, since I have a job, I could, you know, gift myself a proper set of professional, bougie pencils. So that's what I did. It was, I think, first year when I got my job, I gifted myself a set of pencils for my birthday. I went to the art store and saw this cool looking wooden box, well, not this one, wooden box of pencils, and well, the price was pretty steep. However, I thought, whatever, I've made up my mind. I'm gonna get myself a set of cool pencils, and these were the ones I got. The 48 set of Inktense. Of course, back in the day, I was baby's proud artist. I had no idea what it was that I was buying. I was only told that those are watercolor pencils that you can also use with water. I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. I can use them dry and I can wash them out with water. That's like, you know, 2 in 1. So I snagged them right away without having absolutely any idea what it was that I was buying. I tried them out on paper, dry. They appeared to be very smudgy, very sticky. They did not blend at all. I absolutely hated them, even though the colors looked very nice. I must say I was pretty disappointed, so I just tucked them away somewhere in my wardrobe and once again completely forgot I even owned those. So with the time passing, I got myself a set of polychromos, and that's that. A couple of years ago, when I got into our YouTube and saw all those wonderful things and fantastic drawings that people pull out with these pencils. Now I understand what kind of awesome art supply silly old me bought back then. And I can't wait to properly try these out in my coloring books. They're a bit of a learning curve, I know, but I'm going to practice, I'm going to learn, and I'm gonna make them work. This time properly, for sure. So those are German Intents, my very first non-budget coloring supply. We are off to question number 4. What was your first hardback book? Well, that one's easy. So my first coloring books were, like I showed you, Coloring Heaven magazines. I got a couple of Dada Mao's books. I got a few of Jade Summer books. Well, your typical Create Space Amazon printed books. However, as I've scrolled through people's coloring book collections, you know, in search of books I would still like to add to my collection, I saw a bunch of those wonderful hardback books by Hannah Carlson, Maria Trolle, and others surfacing on different channels, and I felt a sudden itch to get one of those and add to my collection as well. So my first hardback book was this one. That's Twilight Garden by Maria Trolle, if I'm pronouncing that right. I think a lot of you are familiar with this book. Gorgeous book. I've done a couple of pages in here already. Yeah, the sort of double page spread. This one I did for Coloropoly, and since it had pears and cats on the other side too, I finished the right side as well with Black Widows and new color tubes for the background, I believe, and some ink to darken up the colors. Yeah. Anyway, so this was my very first hardback book. And the next one I got were the Hannah Carlson ones. That's how the whole craze started. It's a lovely book. I really love the paper. And those hardback books always feel so bougie, so special, you know. Well, they're just different. I really appreciate the quality. Question number 5. Who was your first buddy color with? That one's also easy. It was my bestie, my lovely friend, Marin-chan. Since I go to visit her pretty often, and now every time I do visit, we tend to color a lot. We love Jade Summer grayscale books. We mainly work in this one. Well, I work in this one. She has all 4 books separately. So the very first body color we did was this bitch. I used Hellooooo alcohol markers and their dual tip brush markers, water-based ones. That's my Reaper page. Yeah, you can also see her page on the left. It was also fun, actually. We are constantly buddy coloring in this book. We've done a lot. Well, not only that's the most recent one. Well, not only buddy coloring, just coloring, you know, doing different challenges and whatnot. Yeah, I love these. I really do. So she was the very first person I've ever buddy colored with. Ever since, I've done a whole lot more. I'm also buddy coloring with Jenny's pages. We're working on Hannah Lynn's Whimsy Girls Around the World, and I hope to finish that book together with her. I also did some buddy colors with other awesome colorists here on YouTube, and it's really also fun. I'm always up for one. Just saying, if you're interested, let me know. Number 6 asks me for the first color tube channel I've ever watched. It's really difficult to say. I mean, at first I was into art YouTube, basically. I browsed for new art supplies, new drawing ideas, hence my huge pile of new art supplies that I got back in quarantine months. Well, had nothing better to do, I guess. But eventually I got dropped into this rabbit hole that is ColorTube, which is lots of fun, by the way. So one of the first channels I got recommended to visit where I believe Jenny's Coloring Love. We also have Lavella's Coloring, Zucchini Kitty, wonderful colorist, Coloring with K, Lucy Just Adds Color, Spicy Cat Colors, and many more. I could go on for hours. Coloring community on YouTube is really awesome, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. Question number 7 is the very first page I've ever colored. Although I've been coloring since March this year, it was quite difficult to actually figure out what was the very first page I've done, because silly me forgot to date the first pages I did. However, if my memory does not fail me, I think my very first page comes from this awesome book. It's a Colotronic one. It's this huge color by number square book. For my very first page, I figured I'd do something simple, you know, to get into the groove. So I went with color by numbers, and I did not go fancy. I went with the first page in the book, actually. This lion was first page I've ever colored, believe it or not. Then I went for zodiac mandalas and so on and so forth. I got into the swing. This book is really loads of fun. I also did the zebra and Tutankhamun. I have 2 more pages colored in this book, but I didn't do those. My friend did. This is a funky, neat looking book. I love it. Question number 8. What is the first portrait picture you colored? Another easy one. This time I'm pulling out the Dunkelbunt coloring book by Sarah Richter. It was the page I did for one of my personal coloring challenges, which was a page inspired by a character. Well, some kind of character. So, me and my friend Marinchan are trying to create our own fantasy story. Right now we are still working on the plot, on the character concept, and there is one character in this story thus far that I'm slowly growing attached to. And I did this page inspired by the concept we came up for the said character. I even renamed the page using his name. I'm not gonna give out more because it's still a work in progress, and well, anywho. So here you have my elf boy. I really like the way it came out. Well, as soon as I found this page in this book, I immediately thought about the said character. It was very heavily inspired by him, at least by how we picture him to be. I used alcohol markers for the base. Then I shaded with Black Widows, which worked surprisingly well in this paper. Also used stickles for the background, the blue shimmer, and you can see on the page, and some, how was it? Oh my gosh, I believe it's called Dragonfly Glaze, if I'm not mistaken. for the lower part of the page, but I don't know if the camera can catch it. It's very, very, very subtle. Anywho, that's the first portrait picture I've ever colored. And actually, I'm very, very, very proud of it. Love Sarah Richter. Her books are amazing. Look, we're off to question number 9. My first grayscale picture. Or that one is even easier. We're going back to this book here. Also, a page from my random 50 challenge. Yeah. What on earth is that? You're gonna find out soon. I promise that one's coming. My first grayscale picture was this one. From Kawaii Horror, I believe. I followed the prompt teardrops. And as you can see, I kinda did a boo-boo on this one. It really breaks my heart. Oh my gosh, this page was almost done by the time I decided to do her mouth. And when I pulled out my red marker, it decided to burst on me and splash ink all over her face. And it wasn't a cheap marker, I must say. It was a pro marker by Winsor & Newton. It really surprised me. I tried my best to fix this. I tried to wash it out with blender. I tried to cover it up with more skin tone color, thus making her skin a lot darker than it previously was. This picture is purely done with alcohol markers, by the way. Nothing more added. I even tried to cover it up with gel pens. I mean, well, it kind of worked out. Well, her teeth are still kind of reddish. Red is really difficult to cover. Somehow it always shows through. But, well, for a moment I thought I'm going to redo this page. You know, I had the doubles back then. I had the book, not as part of this compilation, but this book alone, but I gave it away. But then I thought, well, it's a progress. You know, one of the first pages I ever did. I'll just leave it the way it is, embrace it and live with it. And now it kind of grew on me. I mean, it's there's nothing to be done about it. You know? But all in all, I really like the way it came out. And after that, I found my love for grayscale pictures and how easy those are to color. And we have question number 10. Wow, that went by fast. First ever completed coloring book. I already have one, although I've just started coloring. It's this lovely little book. I completed it this summer. I think it was in August, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 11th of August. And I started working in it on May. Yeah, because I did that one for Mermaid. And I absolutely fell in love with Kira Shaknima and her Color by Colors books. It was so easy, a lot easier than Color by Numbers, believe it or not. I have a couple more of her books, I have her mandala books, I have the Tetris one, and I also wanted to get the Women of the World, but I got the Color by Number one by accident. So yeah, I worked on this one from back to front, you know, because, well, it was easier to read the color palette on the page on the left without smudging it, since I was working with alcohol markers. And yeah, slowly but surely, a few pages a month, I completed it. I have a flip through of this book on my Instagram when I finished it. It's a really lovely book. Illustrations are gorgeous. And I absolutely love the fantasy theme. Well, some of my markers are starting to run out here. I think I've sacrificed 5 or 6 markers on this book. The cheap knockoffs are Touch ones, you know, the Touch News or Touch Youch Youch or Touch Cools or whatever Touch that they named them. Oh, well, yeah, but this book was really fun to work on. And you know, that sense of completion when you're done with the pages is awesome. As you can see, it's complete. And that's the swatch page. Okay, so that's the Fantasy Women by Kira Shishnima, my very first, as of yet, the only book I've completed this far. But my goal for next year is going to be to complete a few more, because what are the books good for if not working in them, right? Well, I am kind of a collector in a way, you know. We all are, kinda, yes? No? So there we go! I am done with all 10 questions of the Colorists Firsts Tag. It was really lots of fun to go back to where I started and to explore my progress as I went. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I myself would also like to tag free channels and make them join the chain of fun. So the ones I would like to add are Jenny's Pages, ABC Coloring 1, and Chelsea's Creative Escape. I would like to see you guys do the same. Like I said, go back to basics, go back to your roots. Tell us all where it all started. If you haven't done this tag before, I encourage each and every one of the colorists around in YouTube to do just the same. I implore you all to do it. This was a wonderful and fun tag, and it would be nice to revive it again, to get to know each other better. Just, you know, it's a fun blast from the past, in one way or another. I really had lots of fun. Now I have a huge mess behind me to clean up, and anyway. Once again, a huge thank you goes to Disney Mix Coloring for bringing this tag back to life. Also for JoJo's Coloring Nook for creating such a wonderful tag. So until the next time, I'll see you all here on my channel. Remember to stay creative, stay artsy, and have fun in every single step you take. Until then, I'll be seeing you. Ata!